Welcome back. President Obama drawing a line in the sand, saying he will not sign another short-term budget resolution. We want to bring in Senator Rob Portman. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maria, great to be on with you again.
So what is your reaction to the president vowing to veto any short-term fix to fund the government?
I don't know. I mean, instead of drawing red lines and making it more difficult, I wish he'd work with us. Obviously, there's a shared interest in ensuring that our government continues to operate, but we also deal with the spending issue. And I think there's an opportunity here. We also have the debt limit coming up. We also have a highway trust fund expiring. We also have the possibility of tax reform, which, as you know, I'm very high on. So I think there's a possibility of working together, but not if the president's issuing veto threats already.
So you got the highway trust fund. That's an open question. And you've got the defense bill. That's an open question. Both sides, though, believe that we need more spending on defense, right?
Well, look, I do think that our defense is stretched really thin right now, and we've got to ensure that we, particularly with what's going on globally, we have to be sure that we have a stronger defense going forward and a better plan. So, I think there is an interest in raising the cap on defense. But the problem is that we're looking at, again, historic levels of debt, and we're looking at another big deficit this year, and we're looking at a very weak economy, as we saw these job numbers last month. And it's not the time to be increasing spending generally, but there is an opportunity, I think, to help on defense through this combination that I talked about of tax reform that makes sense, dealing with the highway, crumbling roads and bridges, and being sure that we continue to operate government.
So your priorities are tax reform and this major infrastructure bill that you've been working on, as well as defense spending. Is that a fair statement? Those are the priorities?
Yeah, I think that is a fair statement.
Tax reform, Senator Dagen McDowell, don't you think that will have to wait until the next president's elected? Because that's really kind of the platform in various ways that the candidates who have released tax plans on the Republican side have laid out some form of tax reform.
You're probably right on comprehensive tax reform, because this administration insists on huge tax increases in order to deal with the biggest part of the tax code, which is the individual side. But there's an opportunity now to do something on the business side that would really help American workers. And if we don't do it, what's going to happen is we'll continue to see this erosion of American businesses going overseas. And some of it will be these so-called inversions, but a lot of it's just going to be foreign companies buying U.S. companies. The number of acquisitions, as you know, doubled last year as compared to the year before in dollar terms. And we see it again this year, about once a week, a U.S. company being bought by a foreign company, because our tax code is so out of date, so inefficient, so non-competitive. So we have an opportunity to do something about that even in the next couple of months here. We sure should.
Senator, when you go back to the infrastructure point, how do you defend, or how do you turn this into a positive for the Republicans against these big Bernie Sanders $18 trillion spending plans? And again, I think most people would admit that the infrastructure case is readily apparent to anybody who's driving down the road. So how do you turn that into a positive for the Republicans?
Or landing at JFK.
Yeah. Potholes on the runway. So listen, I think there's going to be different proposals out there, and you're right. You can't keep up with Bernie Sanders and his spending spree. But what you can do is have a predictable, certain highway spending plan, and that's what we haven't had in about a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because you have these kicking can down the road highway bills that no one can plan or predict on. So whether it's a state or a local community, or whether it's our contractors, what you need is a highway bill that makes sense, that does handle these infrastructure needs that are apparent to everybody, and does it in a consistent way. So that's why a 6-year bill has kind of become the hope of many of us, to have the ability for Washington to kind of get out of the way, set the standards, and get out of the way.
Senator, it's good to have you on the program today. Thanks so much.
Maria, always great to talk to you.
We'll see you soon. Senator Rob Portman there.